Hi, this is Mary Kay. Today we are painting the California foothills with the oak trees in the springtime. I am so inspired every spring when the greens come out and they're just such a yellow green. This painting is considered high key. So sorry about that wet spot. This is a grayscale, which if you call black, pure black number 1, and it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and pure white is number 10. So low-key paintings are when the numbers are in the 1 through 5. It's mostly a dark painting with some highlights. And high-key paintings are when it's mostly 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and a couple darks. So you can see that this is mostly a high-key painting. So I took my water-soluble graphite and sketched out the mountains and the foliage. I did not put in the trunks. I did put in this line here where the foreground is. I'm going to paint this in a little different order because I'm not going to be using PBO. I'm just going to be using a sponge to paint the foliage. So these are natural sponges. They come in all kind of shapes and sizes, and you can gather up as many as you want because they make different patterns. So we want to pick one here that is going to make the pattern of the foliage of the oak trees. I think all of these are good. I'm going to use this one though here. And I've wet this sponge, so it's very easy to, that's the first thing you have to do is just get it wet and then really dry it out. I'm going to start with the foliage. What I need to do is make myself a nice puddle of yellow. I just squeezed out some yellow paint. The yellow that I use is Hansa Yellow Medium from Daniel Smith. Winsor Newton does not make a yellow that has this pigment. The pigment that I like, I don't know if you can see it, it says PY97. Pigment Yellow 97 is a transparent yellow, and I think it's beautiful. So that's a little yellow puddle there. I made it with lots of pigment and not that much water. My sponge has been wet. Now I'm going to dip it into, when you use a sponge, it takes a lot of paint. Here's the trick to sponging well. Every time you make a mark, you have to twist your sponge somewhat so that every single time you're getting a different little pattern. You don't want to repeat your pattern. So I'm going to start up here. So I'm twisting it. Each time I'm moving it slightly. This is just pure yellow. There needs to be a lot of holes in it. Holes meaning I need to see the white paper. I'm not making this be solid. Go right out the paper there. There's a few in the background here. I can put those in. There's nothing in this below the line of this foreground. Now I'm going to take my number 10 brush and I'm going to put a little bit of Antwerp blue into that yellow puddle to make a pale green. And I'm going to put this into this paint. Hopefully this hasn't dried yet. I want this to be blending up into it, into this yellow. It's not really, I think that dried so fast. I'm trying to look in my picture where there's the greens, because the sun is shining from behind these trees. Maybe I should go back in with my sponge. Maybe that would work better. Okay, so I just made some more green. Now I've got my sponge, which I never rinsed out. Now I have green in it. Oh, that's better. I thought it would be wet enough. So now I'm putting in where I see the darker green, not the yellow. It's not a dark green, it's a very light green. I think I'm going to make some darker green even. So just more yellow and more Antwerp blue. Put my sponge into this. And at the bottoms of each of those greens, I'm just putting a little darker green in. Okay, I think that's good. Just gonna leave my sponge there. I'll rinse it out later. The next thing I want to do is put in this foreground because I need these trees to dry while I'm before I put in the background. So here's my 3/4 inch brush. I'm brushing it right up to that line. I'm wetting it, wetting the paper with, well, my brush has a little bit of paint in it so you can see where the water is. It's kind of dark here in Half Moon Bay today. So I'm gonna go just pure yellow, start with pure yellow. That's always a trick in watercolors. Start with your lightest color. You want the pure yellow to really kind of stand out. Good time to sign my name. I'm going to sign it over in the lower right. I sign it up about 1 inch so that, because the mats I have mat pretty high, and I just write my name just like this is a pencil. I dig it into the paper. I write my name in cursive, Mary K. S. period Jolly. And then I put a C with a line around it. That's a copyright mark. Any artist with work on paper is copyrighted. Now I'm going to make a darker green. This is really about a medium green, but because this painting's so light, it looks like a medium green or a dark green. So I've got this in my brush now, and I know that I'm going to be putting my trunk in here, so I'm just putting this dark green kind of in clumps at this angle, which would be the sun is over here shining, and there's a few, this is sunrise, just a few shadows are coming down. Let's put these in at an angle like that. I think this would be nice if I maybe put a little bit of French ultramarine blue into this blue, just to give it a very dark green. And at the bottoms of each of these little puddles of green, I'm just putting a little bit of real dark green. This is at an angle too. This corner I can darken. In this corner I can darken. And then at the bottoms of each of these clumps. So each little like clump of green has extra little shadow. My main focus in the foreground you can see is right in here, which is going to be good because then my eye is going to go to these trunks. Now the top should be fairly dry. What I'm going to do now is rinse my brush out really well and get clean water. Make sure my brush is clean. And I'm going to paint the top and these mountains behind. What I'm going to do is just wet the top of the paper down to the trees basically. And I'm going to wet a little bit down here below those trees too. Not trying to get the spots in between these trees right now. Now, it's very unusual to have a painting that has a yellow sky with hardly any color at the top, but we're going to try it. So this is pure yellow. I'm just making my sky very pale, light yellow. We're breaking the rules. We're going to have a couple of light corners up there. Now what I'm going to do is add a little pink to that color and make a pale orange. And now with this pale orange, I'm going to touch my paper towel so that I don't have so much water in my brush. I'm painting the top of this mountain. I don't think you can see that. I'm painting the top of this mountain right here. And it's blurry, and it's okay. I want it to be kind of blurry. Now I'm going to add a little bit more pink to this puddle. I have a very pale orange now. Now I'm going to paint this here. And now I'm going to make a little brighter orange. So more yellow, more pink. Yellow and permanent rose make orange. Because I love that right there. That is so pretty. So I'm going to start painting this right here. And here we go. And now I'm going to mix in more rose, permanent rose, and get a darker orange and bring that down. And I'm painting around my foliage there and out to the edge. And this one here. Out to here. I'm just adding this color where I can see white. And here, it's also that like yellow orange color. Now I'm going to add the tiniest bit of the darker green, the one that was the one with the French in it. I'm going to add more water to that, and I'm going to, I don't like that too much. It needs to have more French in it. It needs to be grayer. There we go. That's grayer. That's better. And now I am going around these edges here. Okay. added more water to my brush so I could get this to blend more. I'm going to add a little bit of orange to this green. I like watermarks at this point. Now what I want to do is just use the corner of my brush to add these colors into the white pieces of paper. So it looks like we're looking through the trees to that color. I'm going to take my number 10 round brush and go and make that little, I'm calling it light green. It's the yellow with Antwerp. And I want to put it in here below these trees here. Kind of coming down to this foreground line. I see a lot of yellow trees in there. They have a little tiniest bit of brown in them, so maybe I will try to put a little bit of burnt sienna or raw sienna into my yellows and add that in there. I have a water line here, a water mark where it was wetter. The brush had more water than the paper, so I got a line. So now I'm probably going to mess it up worse. I'm going to have that finish up over here. We'll see if it makes it worse or if I fixed it. So this painting is done except for the branches. I'm going to use a small brush and I'm going to use sepia. If you want to, you can take a piece of masking tape and run it right over your foreground, right at that line. You can kind of bend this tape and make it follow that line, because all of the trunks of the oak trees are coming from the ground behind the hill right here. So I'm going to do this one first. So it's going up to this big tree. What I want to talk about right now is that the rules about trees are that, and it's very obvious, that the bottom of the trees are always the thickest, and as the trunks go up, they get thinner and thinner and thinner and littler. The other thing about trees is that every tree has a set of branches that come off at the same angle. So now oak trees are very unusual because the branches come off almost at 90-degree angles. So if I start my trunk here, going up to these here, I start painting over the tape. It's a nice thick trunk anchoring that whole tree. And there's a very thick branch coming off. It's almost at a 90-degree angle. Not quite, but almost. It's coming off this way, going that way. And then when this one comes off, it's kind of coming off at 90 degrees. Then it goes up into the foliage and we can't see it as well. This one. So I have the basic trunk here. Now this one's thicker than this, so I have to make this, the very bottom, thicker. Has to be thicker than the things coming off of it. Now I'm going to start to branch out, and then I go that way and that way and that way and that way. You're just always making it almost 90 degrees. And that's what gives them this kind of twisty look to them. Now this side goes into goes behind the foliage and then out of the foliage, and then it curves down, goes up and out. Each time it comes off at a different angle. Each time it gets a little skinnier as it goes out. This one breaks off going this way, then that way, comes up this way. Foliage hides some of it. This big branch comes up. There's really a split here, kind of the bottom of that. I'm gonna try to put that in. And then I want these little branches to do hide and seek. So sometimes I see them and sometimes they disappear because the foliage is in front of them. A lot of times these branches will be below the foliage. And I feel like there's another bigger one coming here too. So this is where you just get to have a little fun painting in all these weird little branches. You want to know that they're connected, but you don't see all the connections. That's my first tree. There's a tree over here near the side. I'm going to do this one next. So that's the big one there. You know what? There's these branches that come down and they are coming down and twisting. They're going behind the little hillside. I want to have some of that going on. Little guys all weird and twisty. If your brush kind of skips and you don't have to connect every spot. Oh, I see in here I need to have something coming through here. There's not enough. And they crisscross and they go over each other. Just using the tiniest bit of your end of your brush to get up. There's a little thick spot, so I'm going to make this whole branch a little thicker. What's in here? Something? Do we have something come up here? Or just maybe coming out like that? I gotta feel like I've connected them all. All right, now I'm gonna go to this one here. And this is this tree. The trunk starts here. It's not as big as this one by far. It's just a little skinny thing. Again, the branches are, when they break, when the new branch comes off, it comes off at 90 degrees, or almost like 80. And then you have those tiny, tiny, wispy little branches up here. I'm going to put the third, I'm going to make this one a little thicker in here. Now the third one, I cannot make this distance the same. I have to put this one a little closer so that these distances are all different. I just smeared that there. This one's weird. This one looks like it's like a W, like a V, but that will be very bad if we paint it that way. So we're gonna change that shape a little bit. Just have one branch there coming out and then going out. Sometimes it's the weird stuff that is the best. The mistakes are always my favorite part of a painting. So another little trick we can do is to use a credit card to get these branches to be sort of craggier. If I put some paint on my branches, like on the trunks like that, nice thick paint, I can take this credit card and drag it out from there, and I'll make little bitty branches that way. And they never can go in a straight line when you're just using your credit card. That helps. I like that. See if I can get a couple of these to go out. Make little bitty branches. Let's try some from over here. I'll darken that branch with some dark paint, sepia. Trying to make this look like it's connected. Looks like there's a branch there going nowhere. Thick one too. So you can just add these branches on until you feel like your tree makes sense to you, that it's connected. It's got little branches out to all the pieces of foliage. It's very solidly connected in the ground. The foliage is hiding. This one needs some more up here. So I'm just going to keep adding these till I feel like the claw. I'm going to take my tape off and see what it looks like. Well, I feel like there's a lot of parts I like about it. I'm not so sure about my sky. I feel like maybe I should make that went my paint went flying. I feel like I want to make this just a little stronger of a line, a harsher edge. And then it went, this one went here and down. This one kind of comes out yellow here. So the mountains look more like hills. Like that's better. And now I'm going to just do the very pale, oh, that had green in that yellow. So I'll go from the other side of my yellow. That's way too much pigment, not enough water. A little pink in there. And I'm going to redo this top mountain. I think that's better. This watermark that I got here is kind of harsh, but I think I just need to leave it alone because I just have to accept that that's a part of my painting. And now I also feel like I want I'm going to try some more yellow on my tops of my trees. I'm going to mix up some more yellow without the green. Sponge it on the top again. Oh, it's kind of starting to look like oak trees. I'm standing up to look at it, and I think one thing that could help this painting is that if right in here was a little darker so that this foreground stood out more. So I'm going to try to make that green. This is where if I had my tape on, again, I could just paint this in here. And then I can make that a little bit darker brown over here. I'm going to use the Rossi, and I'm going to try just a tad of sepia into that and see what I get to do in here. Yeah, I might even add just a little bit more. Get some shadows. We stop right at that line there. I really do love those bright yellows. In this foreground, so I'm just going to repaint them even brighter, just right over the whole top of this. I touched that brown there and it went into the foreground here, but I think that's better. Now I'm going to try to add a little bit more yellow to the tops of these trees just with my brush and see what happens. Because that's where the brightness is. Over here, I'll try some over here, right at the tops of the trees. that will mat out. I'm going to go ahead and fill that little spot in right here. I think there's a branch that kind of breaks off in here. That's okay, they do break off. And these come down and are messy. Just some little ones that come here. I want my eye to go to this area. This is my focal point, so I'm making it super dark. And trying to make it interesting right in this little spot right here. So I think we're about there now. This is weird right here. There's like nothing. Although it's kind of like that in the picture. So there's this little square here. Look, it needs at least a little branch or something. Maybe not that thick. Okay, I think I'm going to stop. Thanks for watching till the end.